Mr Abbott, as ever, will give up anyone else to save his own job. 3 weeks ago, Mr Abbott was saying that his great friend Bronwyn Bishop, was on probation. Then 3 weeks later, when Mr Abbott thought it might jeopardise his own job, in part through his own poor mishandling of the travel scandal, he now then says to Bronwyn Bishop, "You've got to go." But remember his famous press conference of a couple of days ago. Tony Abbott comes out of hiding after the paralysis of his government for the last 3 weeks and says it's the system's fault, not Mrs Bishop's fault. That does raise the question. If Mr Abbott simply doesn't get what was done wrong and it was the system's fault, why did Mrs Bishop have to resign? Now it seems that he's turned on her and says her career is over and she must go. But we see this very untidy business where everything this government does is determined around one question: how to save Mr Abbott's job. The fact of the matter is that what Mrs Bishop did was so far and away egregious that even her own colleagues couldn't put their fingers over their nose to remove the smell of this issue. Mr Abbott, though, just doesn't get it. On Sunday, when he said it's the system's fault, not Mrs Bishop, but yet Mrs Bishop has to resign, he wasn't really dealing with the truth, was he? The fact of the matter is that his captain's pick for Speaker made really terrible errors of judgment in terms of what she thought was acceptable in her addiction to privilege. Now what we've also seen now is her own colleagues recognise that the Parliament of the last 21 months has been a very partisan and bitter place. And that's in no small part due to the Speaker, Mrs Bishop, who was a fierce political warrior of Mr Abbott's side of the Liberal Party. So when we hear them talking about other people, we all know what it's about. Mr Abbott just wants to take the focus off his own conduct and that of his captain's pick, Mrs Bishop.